Hey guys, it's Eric from foundersbeta.com. I'm delighted to have Jasmine from copysmith.ai. Jasmine, thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks so much, Eric, for inviting me on. Excited.
So, yeah, I'm thrilled and I'm looking forward to hear your story. So let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and copysmith.ai?
Definitely. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. Attended school at McGill, studied computer science, but I actually started out in comparative literature. So I love writing, love words, and really fell in love with CS and the fact that you could represent words mathematically. So became really involved in NLP research after doing a few software engineering stints in Silicon Valley, worked at Square, Lyft, and then just really fell into the world of natural language processing. So I worked at Mila, which is, or did research at Mila, which is the largest deep learning lab, academic deep learning lab in the world. It's headed up by Yoshua Bengio, who all of us Canadians know very well, three godfathers of deep learning. Also worked at Microsoft Research in India, and then worked at OpenAI as a researcher there. So really navigated a few different roles, both within research and engineering as well as policy. And Copysmith really started when out of a side project, actually. So I was working on an e-commerce store with best friend. I really love jewelry. I have like 5 rings on my desk right now, and we're just thought it would be a fun project. And it was a huge pain. It was not fun anymore after I had to write my 10th product description and my 2nd blog post and get out ads and them. It was my first experience doing marketing. And not only was drafting the copy really painful, but actually managing all of it was as well. It was really hard to know like what I had running at any given point. And I thought, okay, big companies must have solved this. Like they must not be staring at spreadsheets like I am. And it turns out they absolutely are. they're doing the same thing. They're staring at spreadsheets all the time. If you've ever tried to collaborate in spreadsheets, it's a huge pain. You have to find the yellow triangle at the top right corner of each cell. And so Copysmith was born. We started working on it in late August, and we just launched in October, and happy to chat about it more. But yeah, it's been a wild ride thus far.
Awesome. So, so I guess your background from computer science and literature brought it all together. And like, what was it like? How did you go about it? Were you thinking about, hey, this could be something because I experienced it, or did you talk to other people in the beginning?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't want to solve a problem just for folks like me, although I saw there was a need there for folks who didn't know how to do marketing at all. I also wanted to understand, okay, what are the things that people experience, the pain points from folks who are at the top of this field, who understand it very deeply. So I actually went and chatted with one of the top copywriters, I think, in Canada, Brad Tiller at PartnerStack, who I worked with at Breather. And initially he was really skeptical about Copysmith, which I found really interesting. He was like, humans can't, like, copywriters, I think, have a really tough time defending their sort of work, which is hugely important within a company, because people have this conception that words are easy because everyone speaks, right? And everybody writes. So they're like, oh, words are easy. But actually copywriting is hugely, hugely difficult. And like Brad knows this as an expert copywriter. And he was really doubtful that AI could come in and do this.
I see.
But when he first saw the product, he was like, holy crap. Not that it would replace his work, but rather that it would make it much easier to cover more creative territory. And we've seen this again with doing interviews with folks who are like very experienced. They're like, oh, this is super interesting. Not that I would take this right away and deploy it, but I didn't think of that before. So I really think Copysmith, for users like myself who haven't done a ton of marketing, yeah, go ahead, deploy it. It's better than what you would write. It's way cheaper than hiring an agency. It's easier than using a freelancer. 100%, like is a solution in that way for you. But what we've discovered as we have talked to more experienced marketers, and focus on growth, is it's more about the ideas and brainstorming partner aspect, because it just really sucks staring at a blank page.
Right. Right. That's a really good point, because I think it can be a platform to enable the user, to do more great things in marketing. So because I think a lot of people just get skeptical about like AI replacing jobs and those things, right? So, but I see it more as a tool, or something that will make your job maybe a lot easier, right? So yeah, I'm glad to see this. So speaking of AI and like marketing, so what do you think, like, the industry is heading, or where do you see the future of AI coming in?
Definitely. So right now, I think there are different bottlenecks that I see in marketing, and I'm sure I'll discover more as we continue building this product. But one huge bottleneck that we see is bottleneck in experimentation. You just can't test enough variants for enough segments of the population.
Right.
And most of that is copy bottleneck. Like, how do I write copy for like 20 to 25-year-old women who like this page and they're based in California? And should that copy be different from a very other specific segment? But you might have, let's say, hundreds of these segments. There's no way that like an early stage startup team can test variants across
Right.
that hundreds of segments. And that's the bottleneck that we're looking to unblock for folks who are dealing with that sort of volume. So I definitely think we're moving towards paradigm where if we want to do this micro targeting and really specific segmentation, humans don't have to take, I wouldn't call it the back seat, but really a supervisory role where
Right.
they can edit and sort of hit, okay, I don't like this variant, let's discard that, but really playing an editorial role instead of being in the driver's seat of producing the actual copy, because there's just way too much. There's too many segments to target, to write for 100. It's much easier to edit 100 pieces of copy than to write 100 pieces of copy. So I see one definite path forward for removing bottlenecks. But the second thing I might mention here is I think we're going to see increased personalization throughout individual customer's journey as well. So again, another bottleneck with people spend so much time rewriting their homepage and A/B testing variants of the homepage, and people who get more experience also start A/B testing variants throughout a customer journey.
Right.
But the extreme version of that hasn't been achieved, which is imagine a world where pages are dynamically generated based off of the users, like either query parameters or just things we know about that specific user, in a much more personalized way than before. So like, for example, imagine we had access to your like message history in some sense, and we can see if there are relevant keywords to this product, and we can generate a blurb that's a pain point that's not very general. It's not targeted at people who live in Toronto between X and Y age. No, it's targeted at Eric, who has mentioned a specific problem before in his message thread, and that's dynamically generated. So I think we're moving towards that sort of world, which is really interesting, and also has like obvious implications for like potentially fake news and how people are digesting information. But yeah, I think the way forward is definitely increased personalization.
Right. Very cool. So let's talk about so you had the idea and went talking with some users, of course, and getting some insights. What was it like building your team? Because I always ask the guest speaker, I'm like, how did you meet that person that actually kind of believed in you, and how did that go? How did that conversation go?
100%. This is always the hardest part, right? And the thing that's like the most important to get right is getting the right team together. And I feel really blessed to have an amazing team. So I think a lot of the velocity came around launching on ProductHunt. Actually, to back up a little bit, my CTO is my sister.
Oh,
so
nice.
She trusts me a little bit. She believes me a little bit, but yeah, we've worked on projects together. Actually, that e-commerce store that I mentioned last year, she helped me with that as well. So she helped with like some of the social media, and she was like, wow, this is like really, really hard. So she also experienced this problem, and she's an amazing software developer. So she came on board after I had been working on it for a few weeks and trying to convince her, like, Anna, this is an amazing idea. Like, I think a lot of people will find this really useful. But things really started getting rolling when we launched on Product Hunt, because I think a lot of people saw it and were just like, this
Right.
is so cool, I want to help. So for example, Ian, our chief creative officer, has like 20 plus years agency experience. He's like an international best-selling author. He found us through Product Hunt. And
Wow.
he reached out and was like, I would love to help, like in any form. I've been thinking about AI and creativity my whole
Right.
life, it feels like. So I think there were a lot of folks who just like saw it and were like, whoa, this is a thing I want to work on, which I feel really blessed about. Like this is
Right.
that the idea is compelling enough to draw people in. And then there were the traditional channels where our amazing designer was introduced to me through like a close like founder community called Interact, that's based out of Silicon Valley. Like lots of just like top researchers, like founders. They select like 50 every year. It's one of my most important communities in my life. There was an introduction through that sort of community. So all these different bits and pieces.
Right.
And last, we also hired someone who we found while going through the Startup Edmonton program, which is a local incubator, and they helped like promote our job postings locally as well. So
Nice.
definitely different channels, but
Right.
yeah, just super blessed. Like love my team.
Oh, for sure. And well, I think that one of the biggest key thing is, well, it always begins with the founder, but I also think it's the product too. Because I mean, when I saw the traction, I think it's, yeah, it's super impressive. So I think those things always help, because I think a lot of startups struggle in the beginning because, hey, they haven't proven the traction, right? But if there is traction, I think recruiting always comes easier, right?
Totally.
So that's great. Talk about the MVP, like what was the first version like? Obviously you work with your team, but what was it like, or any tips?
So our MVP was not deployed on Product Hunt. Our MVP was a type form where we
Okay,
sent
interesting.
the ads or the text back to people via Gmail. Like it was a type form plus Zapier integration. So people
Okay,
would submit what they wanted, and then we would send them back like a few dozen variants of like whatever type
right.
of content they wanted, and it was all hooked up through Zapier backend. So
Mhm.
completely no code. We just had like a landing.
Wow.
And even with that, we built like a few hundred people on the wait list, about 400, who later did not convert to our product,
Right,
but it
that's okay. Yeah.
built up that wait list.
Mhm.
So in terms of building an MVP, that gave me already interesting enough data and customer users who are willing to talk to me concretely about something that like a pain point that they were experiencing. But I would probably call that the minimum viable product, maybe, but not the minimum lovable product. So we got
Right.
a level product with our Product Hunt launch.
Mhm.
And building the MVP was humongously painful because
Mhm.
I haven't done React development in a long time. Anna hopped in like last minute. We pulled in help, lots of favors from friends who are engineers. It was a very, very hacky process. So in
Right.
terms of like tips when it comes to building an MVP, I definitely think we launched later than we should have. And this is something that everybody says. Like you
Mm.
probably launch your MVP too late, but and the heuristic was when we launched on Product Hunt, I wasn't embarrassed about it. And there's sort of this startup refrain that if you launched and you're not embarrassed by your product, you launched too late. And I think we launched far too late. We could have launched 2-3 weeks earlier, and I think it would have been good to launch earlier. So definitely that would be my number one tip. Like if you have something in your mind and you really want to build it, go make it happen. Like use a no code tool if you're not technical. Go hire a contractor if you really believe that there's a market for your product and you've already validated that you can spend that sort of money. Like just get it out there. Because I reflecting back, like we could have built MVP very quickly as soon as we had the initial designs and released in September instead of
Wow.
October, which is a huge difference.
Right. Wow, those are great pointers for our audience looking to build their MVP. So let's talk about the Product Hunt launch. I mean, that was a massive success. I saw it, and hats off to you. What were some key ingredients? Like, how did you coordinate it? Any tips on launching such a massive successful launch? I mean,
Yeah, there's a ton of playbooks online that I would encourage folks to look at. So Julian Shapiro of Curve released a really good playbook
Right.
on launching on Product Hunt that we followed. I would highlight some key tips here. One, get a great hunter. So we were lucky enough to get Chris Messina, who's like the #1 Product Hunt hunter, because this means that when they hunt you, all their followers are notified that they've hunted the product. And ideally, you get a top hunter on your product because they can feature you. Like you go straight to first page. We actually weren't lucky enough to get this because we were the 3rd product Chris had hunted that day. You only get 1 featured product a day.
Right.
So we were really lucky. Actually, we were at a disadvantage. But you actually need to plan your product hunt launch like a month prior, because there are a ton of assets you need to create. You need to secure that #1 spot with your hunter to be featured, but you also need to create a video, you need to create image assets, you need to create a logo. So start chatting with hunters like 1 month before you plan to launch on Product Hunt. We did it in a week. That's not recommended.
Right.
#2, create a calendar invite or like a Facebook event and invite everybody you've ever talked to about your product to that event. Just go through your calendar, look through all your meetings, invite all of them, and just have a little blurb that's like, hey, like you've supported my journey, and obviously make it such that people can't see what other guests are on the invite. Time it for like when people wake up, and just put a calendar block. Like instead of messaging people one by one on the day of, this is just way more effective. It gets on their calendar. They know that you're launching something. And you can link the link as soon as it's up. You can say like, could you retweet this for reach? And all that information is in the calendar invite in the same place. And they don't know how many people are invited. Like I think for our calendar invite, we had like almost 100 people on it because I chatted with so many people by that point about the product. And I did another Product Hunt launch recently, actually, for Company in a Box AI, which reached #1. And we employed the same strategy, but we actually did something different. We had 2 invites, one for folks who are in a European time zone. So we had one very early in the morning and at like 1 a.m., right after the midnight launch of Product Hunt. The 3rd tip, I'm trying to only give tips that you won't read online because there are a lot of like you should launch on Tuesday, high traffic, blah, blah. You should launch at midnight. The last tip would be offer a Product Hunt specific offer. So we got about 4,000 folks visiting our site on the first day, just off of Product Hunt. And sorry, there's been like clearing on the side. And we offered a limited time, okay, we are going to be 100 credits for the free trial if you sign up. We're going to give you like a discount code that the first 50 folks who sign up from Product Hunt get to use. And just within the first day, we had 3 people convert into paying customers. And I think that was $200 in MRR, like even before their trial ended, because it was like a time box, like this coupon code, you don't know when it'll run out, right? Because there's only 50 seats. So those would be the 3 things I would mention for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, and another, I think that's great because, you know, when you launch these things, it's good to plan a little bit, right? Not just to rush it out there, especially for sites like Product Hunt where they're so big, right? I think it's good to have some planning there.
We're getting significant traffic from Product Hunt. So I definitely think it's a worthwhile platform to invest some time into.
For sure, absolutely. That's great. So let's shift gears. You know, as a founder, obviously, you know, many projects on the go, always, you know, working on new things. What's the key to keeping it balanced? You know, right now it's like more working from home, it's bland. What do you think? What are tips you might have for just balancing it out?
100%. I think everyone like practices self-care in different ways. And this is one of my main like takeaways from 2020, which definitely had its own ups and downs. As you know, like my family went through a health scare due to COVID. And really what I focused on is just what are the things that make me forget about other things? And like, when will I not be checking my phone? Because I'm absolutely a phone addict. I'm addicted to checking our like user count increases, like the graphs, like recurring, right? What the things that work for me are weightlifting. And so while the gyms were open, I lifted weights every single morning for an hour. Now I don't do that, but I just do body weight exercises also in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I meditate, not for a long time, but for 20 minutes a day. I love Waking Up by Sam Harris. It's like definitely the best meditation app. I've tried them all.
Nice.
And the last thing I do is actually just take a really long bath every week. And I read in the bathtub, which is horrible. It's bad for the books. But it's like absolutely my favorite thing to do. Those are definitely the top three things, as well as trying to have at least one day a week where I do less work. So definitely as a founder, like I'm a workaholic and I work 24/7, and I love working. And I really try to take myself away from that at least once a week, and try to spend time with friends, like go on do calls, catch up with people, and try to put that all in one day.
Right.
And that's my break, like being with people who I care about.
Right. Great. Yeah, because as a founder, it's always a challenge, you know, juggling things and staying healthy and focused, because, you know, if the health is not there, the startup won't be going anywhere, right? So, great. I always ask the guests on Founders Beta, what's the best advice you ever gotten? Whether it's startups, whether it's philosophy, what would you say?
So Michael Nielsen actually told me this, who's like an amazing physicist, but just does amazing work across a number of verticals. Pay attention to what you find beautiful. And I found this incredibly moving because I'm a pianist and a writer and artist. And during that period of my life when he gave me this advice, I'd sort of forgotten about those parts of myself and how core they were to my identity. But I think it applies for everyone, not just folks who are artists, because it's really about like, what do you find to be the most moving parts of life? Like if you reflect, like when were the points at which you felt like a sense of awe, and like how can you like not return to those points, but like what was the core of that experience that made you want to go, wow, like this is sort of what life was about, or like this is one of the best moments in my life. And that helps shape your sense of taste, helps you guide your everyday. Like we can't experience that every day, but it might teach us something about our orientation. So for example, some of my I'm not a religious person, but some of my most beautiful experiences have been when I've been listening to music and in like a religious building. Like that, those moments are hugely moving for me. And this has led me to realize that I like that sort of music, and I can replicate that for myself, even within the time of COVID. So sometimes when I have this song that I play that feels quite spiritual to me, although it's not written in that way, called Un Suspiro by Liszt. And I tag it as one of my songs to listen to whenever something important happens to me. So whenever I play it, I'm like, I remember everything good, basically, that happened to me within the last 3 years. So paying attention to like what you find beautiful, developing your sense of taste so you can create that more in your life every day. Absolutely the best advice I've been given.
Great. What's the next exciting thing, you know, for your startup? What should we look out for in 2021, of course?
There's a lot of amazing product updates happening that I won't reveal yet, but folks come to us saying, I need to launch 30,000 products on a client site, or I need to manage multiple clients. So we're excited to support folks who have bulk needs, work with some of the top retailers in the world. So very excited to make those sorts of announcements. We're also hiring. So we're hiring for a senior engineer, as well as sales and growth. So adding team members are also super exciting. And we have some exciting potential funding related updates in Q1. We don't want to discuss yet, but those are the main three things.
Amazing. So for our audience that want to learn more, you know, about your startup, about you, where can they go?
Yep. Just go to copysmith.ai. There's a 100% free trial. We don't gate it at all. You just have to sign up. And you can reach out to me directly. I'm just at Jasmine@copysmith.ai if you want to partner, if there's like questions you have. Yeah, super happy to chat with anyone from the Founders Beta community.
Awesome. Great. Well, Jasmine, thanks so much for taking the time to come out today, share your expertise, and we're super excited to see some development with copysmith.ai in 2021. So thanks again.
Thanks so much, Eric. This was fun. And apologies for my grandma walking around in the background.
No, no worries. It's all fun. It's all fun. So great. Awesome. Thanks again, Jasmine.
Yeah, of course. Bye now, Eric.